growth. So my name is Dr. Alana DeGrasse. I'm the president of Turning on the Lights Global Institute. And what I like to do is I like to offer coaching to my business clients, as well as personal development coaching to those individuals looking to scale in their personal and professional lives. And when I'm not doing that, I also teach at Northeastern University. I teach digital storytelling, and I'm also one of the first contributing authors of an encyclopedia called the Sage Encyclopedia of Online Learning. So you're not talking to someone who just randomly decided I wanted to throw this together. You indeed are listening to someone who's a subject matter expert when it comes to how, I'm just letting people in the room, guys, so just be patient. When it comes to thinking about how to take your knowledge and turn it into a viable system or a program that people can benefit from and maybe down the line purchase from. So I want to talk about a couple of things to preface this. Now, because there are literally millions of people at home right now, and there are so many people popping up with digital courses, I am a little concerned because, there are a lot of juicy looking packages out there, but they're not really authentic. I just need to be honest. And this is why I'm like, I got to do something, because I can't tell you how many clients I have that have come to, one second, I think I need to let someone else in, but I can't tell you how many clients I've had that have made these huge purchases and investments only to find out that what they invested in was really a bunch of fluff, in the sense of it didn't really offer the value that it was promising. And this is why, after meeting I don't know how many people who have invested thousands of dollars, I said to myself, I need to give and provide value as much as I can in these time periods. So please listen and don't waste my notes. Who's with me? Who says I'm here? I will not waste this juicy information. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate you, because I take time to put these things together, and I really appreciate you. And first of all, let me acknowledge everyone tuning in. I see Sean from Texas. Hey, hey. I see Maggie here, a registered nurse.
328.
We're muting people, sorry. I'm seeing a number of you here that I already know, so thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have new businesses, Paula, feel free to write down your business. We'd love to learn more about it. Paula was in Business Communication Mastery and started a program with her business partner, Kathleen Giarini, and their program is called Collective Impact. So if you want to learn about what their initiatives are, they're doing great work. They're planning on doing great work. You have Trelane. Hey, Trelane. Trelane was also in our WBC program. She's an administrator and assistant principal. We appreciate you. Sean Speaks joined the tribe recently, and she's been a part of a lot of different things we've been doing so far. Arnett, WBC, good to see you. And just so many of you, if I can't see you, please make sure to just check in at the bottom. Maggie, also business communication. She has a Crush That Debt program. And so I just want to invite and thank you all. All right, let's jump into this. So when you think about a digital course and the thought of maybe creating one, what are some questions that immediately come to mind? When you think about creating a digital course and the thought of creating one, what are some of the immediate questions that come to mind? So when we first kicked this off last week, I talked about the fact that all of us, if we've been working in a given field for a certain amount of period of time, we all have some kind of specialty or skill set that other people can benefit from. And the truth of the matter is, if we would just stop and think about the things that we do very well, it shouldn't be hard. It's like, what are the things you do very well? And what do you think people are going to be able to pull from when they look to you as that solution provider? So, so what you want to be able to essentially ask yourself is, if I were to buy from me, what would I want to learn, right? So when I think about my own company, I can easily think about the target that I want to reach. New business owners, individuals who are practitioners, service providers, people who are specialists, people who really have an idea of what they're doing. They just need to get clarity around what they're doing. But if I were in the industry of accounting, for example, that person, I remember one time I gave a talk and, oh, we gotta let someone in. Okay, sorry guys. Why are we not letting her in? I hope she can get in. Okay. So sorry about that, guys. So basically, an accountant, for example, might say, well, how can I actually
No.
create, I'm going to mute this for a
Okay.
second. Hi, Brisa, welcome. Um, I'm going to mute, I'm sorry. So an accountant might say, how can I take what I know and turn it into a viable course? Well, you want to take some of the basic tenets of the things that you offer, and you want to break it down into either how-tos, or like I said before, pillars or modules. And what you essentially are doing is you are taking a big theme and you're making it digestible for your potential audience. So when you think about creating a digital course, you want to start thinking about, how can I take my knowledge and my specialty, and how can I add value to a market that needs me? For example, I know that Maggie has a business in crushing debt. Oh my goodness, right now is a beautiful time to create a program or a course around how to, crush that debt, or how to save better, or it has to initially, the title of whatever you create has to initially draw that target person in. So please don't come up with a boring title like, don't, showing you how to make money so you can live a successful life. Well, that's okay, but having something like the 5 pillars of financial breakthrough is a stronger title. Or, and it should, whatever copy you use, it should really be activating, right? So when I first created my digital product in 2011 or so, and the fashion school in London picked it up, part of it was because of how easy the name sounded. Woman Build Confidence. It's like, it's a no-brainer what the course actually is. So if you're going to come up with something, I want you to start to think, what could be a juicy title for the things that I know to do? What can be a juicy title? And if I were actually going to break this down in modules or pillars, what would those major pillars be? So as I'm chatting, feel free to talk about what you're hearing and what you are learning. So 1 second, I've got to let someone else in. Okay, perfect. So when you are essentially coming up with your idea, you want to pull from things you're already really good at, right? So you don't want to start pulling from something you don't know how to do. So if you're not good at social media, don't start saying, I'm going to create a course on social media. You want to figure out what are things you're naturally good at. So I'm just going to ask some of you right now, if you don't mind, what are some of the things in your business, in your service, that you naturally do well? Like, you don't even have to think about it because you're that good in it. I mean, I can look at you and guess and tell you, but I don't want to do that. Trelane, I want you to think about some natural things you do absolutely well, things that your girlfriends or people that know you in your organization or in your industry, and they say, wow, you really know how to do that. Now, some of you know how to speak well. Some of you know how to negotiate well. Some of you, I know you because some of you are my clients in here. I know that some of you are great salespeople. Karen, I know some of you know how to do certain things, and you've been in that industry for quite some time. Okay, great. You know how to explain things in a simple way. Sarah says you know how to engage in public speaking. Awesome. Anybody else? Come on, don't be shy. This is actually going to help you. So what are the things you naturally do well? Because this is where you need to know where your juice is. I know how to connect. I know how to be humorous. I can listen. I can clarify what's needed. I teach mindfulness in leadership. Awesome. So the more specific you can become, the clearer and clearer you start to get with regards to what people actually need. So here are some immediate things I need you to do, like tonight. Like if I were your teacher, I teach at Northeastern University. We just kicked off a new course yesterday, 40 students. It's crazy. But one of the things I said to them was, I need you to start thinking about, how can you add value in those places where you say you are really good at. So if you know how to crush debt, I'm not a proponent of go and copy how the other person's doing it. Like, I know a lot of people go on the internet and they start looking up like 10 different people, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to do my program or my business or my course just like so-and-so. Well, you don't want to do that, because that you want to create something so unique and distinct that it stands out. So I love it. So for example, ideation and brainstorming, great, JB, that's perfect. So if these are the things you do well, now I want you to think about the industries. So can you place what industries are you presently working in, if this is where you want to create the digital course? If it's not, just tell me in the chat box, what are the industries that you are interested in? And then I'm going to talk to you about how, so Sarah says she has clients in 21 industries, awesome. Real estate, perfect. Finance, oh my goodness, so much here, so much. So I would love for a really, so if someone wouldn't mind, okay, I see seafood, awesome, finance, real estate, okay, 21 industries, it's okay. So I want to ask one of you who was able to put down your industry. I would love to choose one of you as a mini case scenario. So anybody want me to directly speak to you right now about how you can indeed create a digital course? Okay, Maggie was the first one, and then I'll go with JB. All right, so Maggie, I'm gonna ask you to, for a second, turn on your video if you don't mind, and talk to everyone about the program that you created with what you're doing right now. And then we'll go into how you can turn that into a course.
So hi, everybody. Yeah.
Hi. 1 second, Maggie. Let me change the view. Oh, now we can see you.
Oh, hi.
Hey.
So my name is Maggie, PCM graduate with Dr. D. So anyway, so my course is Crush That Debt. So I do help people crush that debt, because my mission, even before all this, we were talking with Dr. D, my passion is to see people stop spending and save for times like here we are right now. This is what I was talking to people about like last year. You need to stop spending, you know, you need to have savings, you need to have an emergency fund, just because if something ever happened, that you can be able to have money and you don't have to worry.
Okay, so good. Now, do you have your notebook handy? You ready for some notes? All right, so you already know, for example, that we talked about this when you did your target audience. Who are you trying to focus? What is the target that you're trying to focus on right now?
So it was that woman that is sick and tired of hopping from one job to another, that woman who is sick and tired of just not having enough, that woman who is tired of fighting with the husband because the month is more than the money, that woman who is tired of not having enough, just going to the job just to pay for bills and not having money to create legacy for herself.
Okay, so because you already have the title, Crush That Debt, that's an awesome name. So your course can simply be called Crush That Debt. Now, to get even more specific around this target we're talking about, then if it were me creating it, I would say something like, crush that debt, for the woman ready to take charge of her finances, or something like that. You can use the colon and then add whatever the byline is going to be. And so that title is already very useful. And then simply, I already know that we talked about some of your system in place. So what you would do is then you would kind of look at those core values that we mentioned before, and you would kind of, decide, okay, I'm going to create maybe 7 pillars or seven steps to crush that debt, however you want to label it. And then you're going to essentially have, maybe 7, a good course has 7 or 8 modules, right? A good course, an 8-module course is great. So you can have like 7 to 8 modules, and within those modules, you make sure you have what I mentioned before, call to actions. So for example, I'm only going to give you one example. So let's just say we were building this out and you had Crush That Debt, and you had module 1, take charge of your debt, or something like that. I'm making that up. But then I would literally underneath that, I would basically provide information in 3 ways. So 1, I'm always going to use maybe a story or a narrative. 2, I'm going to tie in some kind of case study. And this is useful for anybody if you're listening. I'm going to tie in a case study. And 3, I'm going to give them some kind of worksheet or a done for you piece of information. right? So the more you can create information that is really useful and they can plug right into it, the better it can be, right? So I would say, and I call it a triad approach. So it's always going to be, I'm telling some kind of story, then I'm going to give you a case study, and then I'm going to tie in, what was the last part? I forgot. Oh yeah, the worksheet or handout or something that they can get. And you're going to do that simply for all of the other ones. And essentially, now, I left my phone, but when you use your phone to do your videos, you can, again, and last week, I already shared with you the link about where to get some of the tools. You can go back into the group. Oh, one second, I've got to let one other person in. Let's make sure, okay. So you can go into the Edupreneur group to get the tools of how to set up your studio. But one of the things is you don't have to have a perfect video setup. You just have to start. And that's what I want to tell all of you. If you are good at something, you don't have to be perfect. Of course, with time, like if I showed you guys some of my first videos when I first started, you probably would say, wow, Dr. D, wow, because there is one that I was looking at that I started in 2008. Guys, I was in the basement of my home when I lived in Atlanta. And this is funny, so I don't mind sharing it with you. And at that time, I had a cat and I had a pool table in my basement, and where my desk was behind me, you could see the edge of the pool table, and you could also see part of this wall that was painted, but we needed to finish like some of the edging of that paint. Anyway, I'm letting you know it wasn't perfect, but I was just, willing to show up. And that's one of the best things I can tell you is like, so the biggest thing is, you see people with virtual backgrounds like Sarah and Paula, right? But you don't have to have a virtual background. You can do a backdrop like this, or you can do something with an office with a bookshelf behind you. But the key is this: you just want to be that specialist and expert putting that content together. That's the biggest thing. Get the content out, because people really need it. And the more, and don't wait. Like, I want to actually hear some reports that you guys actually tried to start, because there are a lot of things going on right now, and I want you to know the difference between solid information and fluff. Okay. Karen says, I think I get stuck in building modules or a program because I think each module has to be 50 minutes long. How long should they be so they are considered valuable? How do you get the virtual background? Okay, so that you're asking like a lot of questions. The virtual background piece on Zoom, we'll talk about that, Karen, afterwards. And I'll put that information in the group. But I will talk for a second about information and the difference between, we talked about this synchronous and asynchronous learning. So I won't go all into it because we talked about it already, but when, I've been teaching online now for many years, and it's different, right? The way a student, so yesterday, for example, I had 40 students, 40 digital technology students, and they were all staring at me, right? But I can't, different than when you're in a traditional classroom, when you're standing there and you're talking, when you don't have those individuals there in the room with you, it's a lot different. It's a lot more silent when you're talking. You are just with yourself, so you feel awkward already. You're staring at a screen like you guys see all these people. So what needs to happen is that your information has to be so together. And what I mentioned in the last time we met was that if in fact you have an asynchronous or a model where people can log in at any time and watch what you're doing, that means that your information is going to be captured much faster. So people aren't going to sit there and watch you for 50 minutes. They're going to say, I just need to know the gist. And the longest your video can be, maybe 15 minutes tops. But beyond that, you've lost them. So even in for example, like even in Northeastern, when we're setting things up for our students, we just make sure that it's the gist of the information. Now, the beauty of what's happening now is that even if you were to create an asynchronous course, you can then avail yourself, right, beyond that, so you can expand upon some of what they may have, what you feel like they need to know. And that's where you add more value. But we're not talking about that today, but you just want to have at least 8 modules, anywhere between 12 to 18 minutes tops. You don't want to go beyond 20 minutes, right? And remember, and we'll talk about other things, but you want to keep it at that. And 8 modules is good. Now, when I say that, I mean the information has to be solid, because you will definitely be offering resources and handouts and other things. So it's not like it's not like a one and done, you know, like you create the 15-minute video and that's it. It's like, no, the 15-minute video is the starting point, and then you have all those 3 triad pieces that I was talking about. So Maggie, does that help you? And Maggie, one of the things you can do, for example, I mentioned this aspect of adding the case study. What will add even more value is that if you have at least 2 or 3 real case studies within your course, that's awesome, because you rarely see that. You nowadays with online courses, you see people knowing how to put these things together, but you rarely see a live case study. So if there's someone you have helped, for example, right, and they're willing to be in some kind of video with you, kind of how we are, but maybe you're interviewing them, that's going to add value. So what I mean is, like, let's say you do module 1 and you're talking about taking charge of the finances. Then you do, what was the other one? What you do those other parts I was just talking about, but then you actually have someone in a video where you're interviewing them and coaching them through. That's actually another great method to kind of show your expertise or specialty in what you're doing. Does that make sense? So
It does.
okay, so research shows that the more varied types of information you can put into a digital course, the more valuable it'll be, and the more people will actually go through the whole thing.
So
Yeah.
on the story, is this just like a story, or is it my story that I'm giving? You said.
Yeah.
Oh.
So sometimes it depends. So sometimes, and I was going to share this now, it depends on the business and the brand. So some brands, for example, like if they're in coaching, a lot of what they do when they're sharing about different tactics and things like that, they will talk about themselves, or they'll talk about a sample client, for example. Now, of course, they'll never mention the person's name. We keep all of that private, but you can kind of say, well, I coached someone on this, and this is how we went through it. And your handouts and your worksheets, that kind of gives them all of the additional information they need. And if you do that, and you do that in 7 modules, wow, that's really, really valuable stuff. So I've been challenging a lot of you. I've been challenging you since last week to try to come up with a juicy name, to come up with at least some of the titles, like 7 kinds of modules or names that you can come up with. And you don't have to be done. You don't have to have all the information. See, the problem that most people have when they think about even creating a digital course, well, at least when I talk to them, they go, when I get everything together, now how many of you guys agree? Say yes if you do. As soon as I get everything together, Dr. D, then I'm gonna call you. And when do they call me? They don't. They wait for me to call them. And then I'm like, look, I already talked to you 5 months ago. Where is it? And here's what I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna burst your bubble so bad right now. If this touches you, I hope it does. So I was talking to this other high performer, and a lot of you in here are high performers, and we were talking about her procrastination habits. And I said to her, I'm going to talk to you like the potential client you say you want to work with. And she said, go ahead, Dr. D, make me feel bad. And I said, okay. I said, look, here she is at her home. She's at, COVID-19 is impacting her. She's on the internet looking for the solution. She's looking, but she can't find you. Why? Because your videos aren't there, your product isn't there, so she can't or he can't access what you know. And I have to stress this. Right now is a very difficult time for a lot of people. But guess what? Even during the Black Plague, Sir Isaac Newton still discovered and created the conversation around calculus. He still was able to do so much. Still Shakespeare around that season still wrote Macbeth. I mean, we have a choice. So what I'm telling you is, I want to challenge you right now by asking how many of you are actually going to take a stab at starting to create a skeleton of a digital course. I double dare you to put your name down in the chat box, because there's no reason that you don't. You might not even feel like you have enough information, but what I want to tell you is part of ideation and creating a digital course is then thinking about those that you want to help. So the second thing I was talking about was your target. With Maggie, for example, she said, I want to focus on women. And I know she also likes to help women who might be in relationships and also single moms. And, she just loves that target. So for her, she's got to know the pain points. she's got to know that they already feel overwhelmed, stressed out, and tired and bored, which means that all of her titles for the modules have to solve those pain points that that target has. And so, for example, Sean says, scaredy me. Okay, I only see, okay, wait a minute. Let me see how many people are on here. There are 12 people on here right now. And there's only 2 people who actually said, I'm going to try to do a digital course. Come on, you guys. I need some more from you. Now, I understand you're scared because you're like, well, if I say it, then how do I know I'm actually going to do it? Well, if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, then I just want to challenge you to try. And maybe, thank you, Paula. I got 3. Well, hey, Trelane, I know you're busy, so I know how you're thinking. You're like, look, I'm busy. I'm not sure that this is the way to go. I already started last week with teaching 2 students online, and I use Zoom. Great. The student I'm currently working with is the nephew of one of my business affiliates. Well, that's great. And Sean says, I'm not ready yet. And Karen says, I'll do it. All right. Well, whether you're ready or not, hey, you can always take the information and you can park it. But what I will tell you is that it's hard for me to look at I'm just going to be honest. It's hard for me to look at very talented people and very able people. It's hard for me to see them leave money on the table because they don't want to put all of this wonderful knowledge into a video so other people can take that knowledge, right? Because that's the value. Those are all the years you went to school and all that other stuff. Why not create some kind of tangible product that people can learn from? So I just want to commend you for even listening in and taking part in this dialogue. So awesome. So you want to think about the target that you want to work with. And then after you have that in mind, sorry guys, there's a lot going on. After you have the target in mind, then you can start to just practice with the modules, right? So I'm not a believer of just get up and go create something in 5 minutes. What you want to essentially do is take time between now and the next time we meet and kind of come up with, if you already have a business, then just look at some of the core values in the business and ask yourself, what kind of modules does my target actually need? JB, I know that you had raised your hand so we can go over yours. So tell us about your business and what you're doing. I think you mentioned real estate, so let's talk about it. You've got a lot of opportunity right now.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I've been interested in real estate, and I've learned a lot through my recent purchase back in September of 2019. And I've been taking my time, reading a lot of books and watching a lot of webinars. Like yesterday, I was with another high performer who has a course on, real estate and the opportunities that will be available during this time, because there's a lot going on in the market. So it's something I'm passionate about. Everyone says, all you look at all the millionaires and billionaires, that they all own real estate. So I actually draw out sometimes when I'm listening to these books. I could actually put my board up and show you guys. Like I already have some things drawn out that I think I could present in a way. Like I was at my last job, I did a lot of architecture. So I think people learn visually when you're explaining to them. So I have these ideas of one day going on, Instagram, and maybe like introduce people with these. Hey, here's what it would be like buying a multifamily home, and you could essentially have someone pay your rent, and here's some creative financing that people are using to buy homes. A lot of people don't think that they could afford it, but there's a lot of things that I didn't know until like I put my attention toward it, and I'm still in the process of learning, but there's some things I already know that I could help other people with.
So are you already an agent, or are you in the process of?
I am not an agent. I look at myself more as like an investor.
Okay.
So I work with agents who are looking for properties and who have more knowledge than I do. Even lenders. There are people who could look at your financial situation and come with a creative way to get you something that could
Mhm.
get a return on.
So I have a couple of ideas for you, and it might not necessarily be that you create a full-fledged course, but you could do something like create what we call a short course around the given now. And with you, if we were working together, I would probably have you doing it in a bilateral way, where you're having a short course for those who have no knowledge about what you're doing, about real estate in general. So like your average person that knows nothing about real estate, like the basic tenets of create your sidekick hustle as a homeowner, or however you want to label it, right? And then you can also do that. You can also kind of be a bridge builder for those agents and other people that, because it's like a working relationship. So if you had something, even for you being an investor, things like, how do you know what types of things to invest in? How do you prepare yourself for those types of investments? And then on the other side, for people who might be scared or overwhelmed about making investments, you can have like a first tier level, some kind of short course. And so a short course is what we would use as an opt-in. And a short course is great. Brisa, thank you so much for tuning in. So a short course is like an opt-in that you can use for a bigger service. And so what that means is that it's not something where you would do 8 modules. You might have 1 or 2 videos. It's kind of like, hello, and you can use it, right? You can use this kind of video continuously on tools like Instagram or LinkedIn or any of things like that. So if I were you, first, you do need a little more time with knowing what you want to know. And then once you have that understanding, just make 1 or 2 videos around those 2 given areas. Because if now the question will be, since you're not a real estate agent and you consider yourself to be an investor, then the question will be, are you going to be an educator? Are you going to be an advocate for people? So it's just kind of like knowing what is your role going to be, because you won't mislead people, but you want to be very clear about what it is that you're going to offer them. So if you want to be that, I'm the go-to guy for real estate, they're going to look to you as an informational specialist, right? But they're not going to be going to you the way they would if they were going to a real estate agent or to a broker. So you just have to know what kind of information do you want to be the go-to person for. And you can create a short course, whereas, a lot of people now, if you are branding yourself as this person of knowledge of real estate, then you might have a website, and in that website you just focus on 2 things. I'm going to give you valuable information about the industry. I'm going to show you how to become an investor like myself. And maybe part of that is branding yourself, telling your story. What made you take risks to become an investor? So that is really wonderful, because a lot of people align with brands that they know, like, and trust. So that might be one of the ways that you go with that as well. All right. Did that help?
Yes, that was very helpful. So I looking to attend more of these and get more
Good.
insight.
I love it. And so good. Sipping on vitamin C works is in the healthcare community. Okay. Paula, you just I must have missed something. So you're talking about kind of keeping well during this time. Is that what you're mentioning? I might be missing out why you put that there. Why you put that there? Oh, you're drinking. Okay, got it. All right. So essentially, what I'm challenging us to do today is to think about, if you were going to take your specialty and knowledge that you have, and if you were to do that and create a title and create a skeleton, I want you to think about what that content would actually look like. And again, you have a choice of doing a short. Now, if you have a business already, right, and maybe you're a consultant or you do workshops and things like that, you can do short courses, mini courses that let people know more about who you are or what your service is all about. So a short course can be something as small as 1 video or 2 videos. Now, if they are that short, then you want to speak a little longer than 15 minutes. So if it's just 1 video, then 20 minutes is fine, right? If it's 2 videos, same thing, 15 minutes at a time, no more, no less. So you want to start asking yourself, what is the business that I have, if you have one, or what is the service I want to be able to provide? All right. Any other questions that we might have? So from today, I want to ask you, what kinds of next steps are you going to take based upon this information today, and what are your questions that you still might have. So today we talked about establishing juicy titles and making sure you keep in mind your target. And quickly, another way to know what the pain points are is start to read what's going on right now. Look at the industries. There's so much happening, obviously, with COVID-19. I want you to start thinking as a solution provider. So how can you be the solution? And, you know, I could think about most of your industries and tell you where the gaps are. But one of the biggest things is to look at what are the latest reports in your industry. People aren't sleeping at night. People are worried. People are staying up late. Sean, people are getting divorced. Sean's a lawyer, so I mean, I'm thinking people are at home a lot, and I have been thinking for some people this is great for families, and for others, this is not a great time. This is going to make that divorce happen sooner than later, right, Sean? Sean says yes. So, you know, not that I want Sean to go out there and make a video or create a course around how to get divorced, but it's happening, and it would be very useful for, there's so many people looking for information about that, unfortunately, but they are. And so there's so much we can do. Rashonda has a business that she has started, and so she can't talk because she's driving. Too bad, Rashonda. Next time you need to be able to talk because you have an amazing business. And I want to say Rashonda is in Chicago, so I'm so glad that you're still able to tune in. Anybody else? Sarah, are you taking anything from today? What stands out for you? I'm kind of calling you out like you're in class.
Yeah, well, I put it in the little chat, but I do a lot of keynote and speaking events. And so going through this list of topics that I have that are typically pretty highly educational, but looking at how I can transform the content from a public speaking engagement to a course.
Now that is great, because I wanted to say, some of us, because we don't even think about it, we have like most of you have gone to so many conferences, workshops, studied, you have journals of notes and everything. And you can pull from all of those things you've been going through for the last 15 years and create something very juicy. Like the other day, I've always talked about this. Before I started turning on the lights, I literally had 2 luggages full of all my ideas that I never acted on because I procrastinated. It was like I was that person that said one day, and then one day literally became 15 years. So I don't want that to happen to anyone. The idea here is, now let me explain really quickly before let me explain something. So you don't want to, so if I own CVS, for example, I wouldn't want to create a digital course that encompassed everything that CVS had, because people can't digest all of that. So what essentially you want to do is pull out, you know, the gems from, like in Sarah's case, Sarah does a lot, right? So you guys got to go check her out. But in all that she does, Sarah could easily pick from one of her core signature talks and say, this is, when I think about, you know, my company and what I'm doing, these are some of the main essentials. Now, let me explain why a course is useful for, even if you're a business, a brand, or you work in an industry. Just like someone writing a book is just like a brochure that you can use to do bigger business. So you would want to create a digital course and become an authority in your industry, so that when people start looking you up, they can say, oh, wow, this person actually has a course. Because most people as consultants, they normally don't create courses because they think, hey, well, why would I create a course, and who would buy from me, and these kinds of things. But when you create a course, for example, there are 8 million ebooks, digital things, digital downloads right on Amazon. There are so many things right now that are digital that I need you to start thinking about. And one of the easiest ways to kind of compile this information is to make it digestible and to put it into a course. So essentially, if I were you, let me give you what the daily schedule looks like to create your course, okay? So, and I'll just share with you when I first started out, what I would do. So first, just like I'm telling you, I looked at all of the things that I really enjoyed doing. Like I looked at my specialties in communication. I looked at the audience's targets I wanted to work with. And then I said, out of all of that, what's one of the core messages I want to share? And from that, I created 7 modules. And what I would simply do is, from a Monday to a Sunday, I would get up on a Monday and I would say, okay, I'm going to take 20 minutes today and I'm going to focus on this particular topic. just in 20 minutes. So this does not have to take you like 8 hours. So in 20 minutes, think quickly, what is the theme that I want to cover on that particular module, and then every single day I would just do 20 minutes at a time, but just brainstorming. So I'm not saying you're videotaping yourself. It's just like every day for 20 minutes, just brainstorming. And if you did that for 7 days in a row, you would typically have the outline to a course. So that's all I'm going to give you for today, because this was a lot. Right? So how many of you feel like you've gotten something out of today? Anybody want to just share what you're pulling from with regards to what we talked about?
Question.
Yes.
What course platform would you say you use to say when you're creating a course, or because I have a lot of ideas for a course, but I don't know what platform or.
Yeah. So the good news is, at the end of all of this, I'm going to talk to you about what Tolji is going to do. For those of you who are really serious, we want to be able to help you to onboard the course, put it all together in terms of making it viable so people can actually purchase from you. But there are tools like Udemy that I mentioned before. There's Udemy, there's Teachable. There is, and again, this information is also in that group, Edupreneur, so you can go back to it and watch the first video. Now, Udemy is great, but it has a lot of stipulations. So a lot of people left Udemy, but you can still use it. What makes Udemy viable is that you have so many markets within Udemy that when they promote what you're doing, it not only stays within the US, but it goes global, right? So they start to market it. But the hard part about it is that if let's say you created a course that you thought was $300, well, Udemy could make a decision and say, hey, we're just going to allow you to sell that course for $5 or $10. So a lot of people ended up leaving because they changed a lot of their stipulations, but it's still something you can use. And again, you can just put LMS platforms in the search engine and there will be a bunch of them popping up. All right. Good. Any other questions? How long should each module be in the course? We said anywhere between 12 to 18 minutes. Thank you. Google Classroom is great to use if you're working with students of any age. Yeah, okay. So there are a lot of different LMS platforms that you can use to do this. Again, I would say take time though to develop what you're doing so that it is good. Rashonda, yes, I see that your hand is up. You can talk. Oh, let me see. Can you unmute? Are you still driving? I don't want you to talk if you're driving. Let me try to unmute you. Oh, there you are. You're still in your car. Okay, 1 second. Let's unmute you. Oh, wait, sorry, Deborah. Unmute. Do you see it, Rashonda, where it says, okay. Got it. Hi.
Hi. I'm about to pull over. I'm just getting off work. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I actually raised my hand because you said how many got out of, got something out of the.
Oh, and that's why you were raising your hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, let me raise my hand.
Why don't you tell people while you raise your hand? Why don't you tell people what your business is?
Okay, so I have my business, Peace and Love Healing, which is bath salts, body scrub, facial scrub, and massage oil. So each one has its own healing benefit, such as psoriasis, eczema, arthritis, muscle aches and pains, detox, all of it's for relaxation, and more things. So, and I also partner with organizations to help them raise funds for their organization through my products.
I love it. So thank you so much. That's awesome. So definitely you want to be, now in your case, so a lot of times there's another term called cause marketing. And a lot of times some companies where they don't have a direct, they don't have something that they can create a direct course from, they will make a video, they'll make a short course video around that's similar to the business. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So for example, for you might do one for parents, like a short course, and then, oh, by the way, when you're putting your children to sleep, why not use, so you can use that
Yes.
kind of idea. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
you.
Any other questions? So I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in today. I thought today was very useful. Paula says, thanks. Wonderful, wonderful. This will be, this link will be placed inside of the Edupreneurs group. So if you enjoyed it now, I also want to let you know that for those of you who are taking this seriously, by the time we're done, we've got 2 more of these. And by the time we are done, Turning on the Lights Global Institute would like to talk to some of you about how we might be able to partner with you and bring your course up to standard and be able to help you actually have a platform. So we actually have a platform, and we want to have different industries, people from different industries creating their digital products, and we want to be able to support and sponsor. So take your homework seriously. This is a juicy opportunity. There are literally thousands of people on the internet looking for solutions. So why not you? And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get started. You have to be able to just kind of say, I'm going to do this. Even though I might be scared with my knees knocking, I'm going to try. So if I've challenged you today, I hope I have, because I'm over here making, you guys can't even imagine what I'm doing over here. But I'm in my little incubation mode, putting things together. So I appreciate all of you. If you enjoyed today, I just want to say thank you. Deborah, don't go anywhere yet. Karen, don't go anywhere yet. I also want to say thank you to everybody. JB, are you in our group now, the Edupreneur group?
Is that the Facebook page?
Yep, I know you're in a lot of different groups, but yeah, I put this particular one at the top, I believe. So if you were to just copy it, you would be able to see it. And it's the Edupreneur. So and again, I forgot, April 29th, we also have Kickstart My Biz. So if you guys didn't come to that, you're more than welcome to come, or let me know that you want to come. And it's more about social media and branding if you want to come to that. All right, thank you everyone, except for Karen and Deborah, you guys can hang on, and Nikisha, you can hang on. Thank you, Sarah, so much for coming in. I appreciate you. And don't forget, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, we will continue our fireside discussions and our interviews. All right, thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Alana, is our next session on the 15th at noon, or did that switch to 1:30 on the 15th?
The 15th. Oh, so I thank you, Sarah. So it is going to be at noon. The only reason why we changed today is because I had a prior engagement and we had technical glitches and all this stuff happened. But our next meeting will be at noon, same time. I will also make sure, were you guys able to get in good? How many of you got the email? Well, obviously, because you're all here. So next time, noon, and I'll also post the time in the Edupreneurs group. So thank you so much, guys. All right. Thank you. Bye, Sarah. Thank you, Rashonda. See you later. So Nikisha, I just wanted to say bye and thank you so much for coming today. You're a sweetheart. Can you hear me? You can unmute yourself. It's just us three. Let's see if you can. Let me unmute you. Okay. I can't. Nikisha, you want to tap on the microphone and unmute yourself. There you go.
Yes.
Did you enjoy yourself today?
Yeah, I did. You know, it's exciting to see people doing different things with the digital video.
The one who's talking this one, you're up there with me.
Good.
And I like the fact